Hey there, welcome to Pop Culture Cupid.
I'm Alison, love coach, here to help you single people find your way back to love.
And I'm Michal, I'm a single life coach. I help singles embrace themselves and their singleness, as well as develop a healthy self relationship.
In this podcast, we will look at how pop culture impacts romance, dating, and your love life.
And each week we'll shoot another arrow through another pop culture delusion.
I thought we weren't going to do the whole cheesy thing.
And then burst into smithereens.
Oh my god, dude, that's so cringe!
Sorry, it's in the intro now.
If you make it through the chaos and you enjoy what you hear, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and go to all the social media.
At Pop Culture Cupid on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy!
Nice. Recording in progress.
Yay! How's it going?
Hello. It's going good. I'm feeling refreshed
Nice.
after a weekend. Well, actually, I've been working the past few days. Before that, we had a long weekend away, and it was really nice and much needed. And yes. How about you?
Good. Well, yeah, things we are having a long weekend away next week. And when I mean long weekend, it's a short week, like it's 5 days. So very, very lucky. Next week we're going to the south of France, and it's getting good. I don't know, I know you know this. I don't know how much I talked about it on the podcast, but I'm moving away from coaching full time and going back into employee job, just because all sorts of reasons really, but mainly the financial stability in France. If you want to move places or become a homeowner and things like that, you need to have stability, well, official contract stability, which you don't really when you are an independent coach. So I've been looking into going back into a paid salary job, and that's been going well. And so if everything goes to the way I would like, I'd start working not next week but the week after. I've got a couple of like second, third round interviews, so it should go fast from now.
Crossing my fingers.
Yay.
Not that you need it, but still crossing my fingers.
We still, take it all the luck
you
that
never
need,
know. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you never know. Life has so many different elements, and what's the word I'm looking for? Not compartments.
Well, external factors, and
there's a lot of factors that you have no control over, and it is what it is. So
yeah, exactly. And it's you're gonna I'm always just thinking about how I can do better, and how I can how can I help people in the best way, and how can I myself be a better person, and just all these things. And I often catch myself just being quite harsh on myself, but also just then going back to, but the world is so complicated. I mean, 60 years ago you would have never have imagined it was unfathomable to have a friend across the world that you meet up with online every so often.
Yeah.
I mean, did you listen to that podcast? Did you re-listen to that podcast with I've forgotten their names now. Stephen Bartlett and his guest.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so we're not talking about that today.
I will re-listen to it, but I haven't yet. Yeah, but that's a great maybe we should prepare our listeners to listen to it so they can hear it out before we dive into it, because there's a lot to talk about in that podcast. So anyone who wants to be in the loop and wants to listen with us and then talk with us about it, it's a conversation that Stephen Bartlett had with Lori Gottlieb. I think she's a relationship therapist or something like that.
Yeah,
can't remember now. But yeah, I think the world is getting so much more complicated, and there's so many more elements and factors and things to take into consideration, and just a lot of different variations in the world right now.
Yeah.
So, and you just have to adapt. That's I was just watching a documentary with Sev on Netflix about animals. This is so funny, I'm digressing here, but they're talking about the evolution of the world and of different species and the animals, and how animals that don't adapt to the climate change, or to the earth changing over the decades, they won't survive, and it's just at the end, that Darwin thingy, that
Darwin,
only the
survival of
strong
the
survive.
fittest.
Darwin. Yeah.
Survival of the fittest. I kind of see the link that you were making there, and how human beings, like, we're not surviving, but we're inventing the tools that help us to survive, kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't really link the two, did I? But yeah, that's you have to adapt to the changes.
Yeah.
And you have to, like, you got, yes, there's certain things that, if it's not for you, then don't do it. But if there's other things though that are so crucial, that if you don't learn how to adapt to it and work with it instead of against it, you're going to be left behind, or you're just going to end up frustrated and alone, or I don't know, just in a pit somewhere.
I was having lunch with JT yesterday, and so he has a 3.5-year-old. I mean, she's my stepdaughter, and we were talking about her, and and so my expertise is in love coaching and relationships and like emotional awareness and things like that. But to get that expertise, I looked into I studied all sorts of things, including kind of child behavior and things like that, just to have a, it's kind of like if you study maths when you want to do science, like it's part of the thing. And we were talking about how I deal with her and her tantrums, and how her mother deals with her and her tantrums, and all these things. And I was saying, like, I want to shape her into somebody that people want to enjoy to be around. And it kind of, that whole thing of adapting and things, and it's, if she doesn't learn how to adapt, and if she doesn't learn, what boundaries, like, I need to set her boundaries, but I also need to, keep my boundaries firm. Like, for example, I don't know, if I'm taking a shower, she can't just walk into the bathroom while I'm taking a shower and open the curtains and start talking to me. Like, I'm not gonna yell at her, but I'll tell her, you need to get out, and you need to, give me, one, some privacy, and two, just, I want to have some peace and take a shower and things like that. And and so that's just a random example. But another example was that she was having this tantrum, I can't remember when, and so I got frustrated with her, and I just gave her a timeout. I think she hit me, like accidentally hit me, and then I said, don't hit me, be careful. And it became this whole thing. She's 3.5, this is normal. And he was saying, oh, but she's only 3.5, I think you're a bit harsh with her. I was like, well, no, she needs to learn, she needs to be set boundaries, because I'm going to love her no matter what, but other people that she hits are not going to love her no matter what, and they're going to want to spend less time with her. And so I made this big comparison about, if you go on a date, you want to be the best version of yourself, and it's not fair, and you would like for other people to adapt to you, but that's not how the world works. You need to adapt to it. Sadly, if you find people who will adapt to you, that's great, but they're a minority of people. If you want to evolve in the world, you need to adapt to it, because it won't adapt to you.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, I'm not sure how the world is becoming a very victimized place, where people just over glorify the current victim and encourage people to victimize themselves. Where am I going with this? But yeah, I mean, I think that's not going to get you anywhere. You can get stuck as much as you want in, why do I need to be the one who's changing? Why do I need to be the one who's working? It's like, you know, I say this a lot with people that I work with or talk to about being single, is that it's frustrating to be the single person and to have to be the one to either advocate for singles and to defend yourself, or to be the one to just walk away and have to put in all the effort to cope with people's prejudice, because the prejudice is always going to be there. And while it is changing a bit, it's changing very slowly. And people are always going to see being single a bit lower than being in a relationship.
I think it's
And so
because
you have to be the one to put in the effort to learn how to cope with it better.
yeah, I completely agree, and it's
yeah, and just
and I completely
no, go
agree
ahead.
with that. Of it's completely, you know, the fact that it's so. I'll take another example, like to steer away from single and things. So today I'm applying for, so you know, I was applying for jobs. Now I've got into the interview process, but I've applied for jobs before, and I did my CV in such a way that it was, you know, I felt it was very good, and I put everything in it, and I was, you know, my best CV, my best self, and I wasn't getting any interviews. I just wasn't, and I'd spent hours on it. I'd spent, you know, I mean, if anybody who's done a CV knows how long it takes to make a good one, yeah, I'd spent hours on
Yeah.
it, and it wasn't getting any traction, and people were saying, you know, it's too long, or this or that or this or that, and I was just like, I'm just trying to be different, and people can't, you know, companies adapt to me and just, you know, be kind and, you know, give me a chance and meet with me, like they don't know, you know. And I was told, well, I mean, companies look at CVs for 3 to 30 seconds, like they need to get all of the information, and because everybody else is adapting to them, like why would they make the effort for this just one person on this, like on this piece of paper, which makes complete sense. Like on the first impression, why would the people who have an abundance in choice make the effort? Because they've got so many other options, and, you know, and or it's kind of like, you know, another example is a lifetime ago I was working in a jewelry shop, and earrings, and so the things, you know, that you put behind an earring, sometimes they fall off, and you know, and it's a bit annoying. And when somebody would come in and they say, I lost the thing behind my earring, can I get another one? And we'd say, yeah,
what's it called?
yeah, earring caps or seals or whatever. And we'd tell them, well, you need to buy it. Yeah, we sell them. And they're like, well, I lost mine. And I said, you know, we'd say, well, how can you prove, you know, how do we know that you lost it? Well, look, I haven't got it. And we would say, but it would be so easy for you to just leave it at home. You know, we can't just trust you because you seem nice. And they do this whole thing of, yeah, but you can trust me, I'm honest, blah blah blah, like this is ridiculous, why would I come back just with the one? Like, so many, you know, this is gold, this is, you know, we're selling you gold, you know, if you get 20 of them, you can melt it and make another earring yourself, like, you know, this is gold, and we're not gonna just give gold away. And they get the whole frustrated. I was like, you need to, you know, this isn't just you, this is you versus a lot of other people, and sadly, you know, you need to adapt to everything, and this is how these things work. And anyway, it's a huge tangent from adapting to the world, but it's, you know, people sometimes have trouble understanding that they are not the only ones in this world, and they are not, and we're in competition with each other all the time. It's that, you know, it's, I don't know if it's sad to say, but that's just the truth. It's just we are in competition with each other all the time. And to loop back to, you know, dating a 3-year-old, oh, you know, JT was saying, oh, but she's so cute and she's so nice, that she is. But, you know, if you compare her to another cute child who doesn't hit and doesn't scream, which one will teachers want to spend more time with? Which ones will other kids want to spend more time with? You know, if you need to get to know her to know how cute she is, then she's never going to go anywhere, because the first impression is so negative. And same with everything, with CV and dating and everything.
Yeah, and we are competing for people's attention, for people's affection, for jobs, for whatever it is. Everywhere you go, you have to you're sort of advocating for yourself, you're marketing yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that properly, then you're never going to get anywhere. And it's sad to say, but at the end of the day, that's just part of the game, you know. Zev is a physical fitness instructor, and for him to get his clients, for him to keep them coming for more, he has to put on a show. And he loves it, obviously, which why he does it. But you know, he comes and he's like, he just puts on this whole big thing, and he just really loves it. But that's just part of life, that if you want to be the best at what you do, and if you want to attract the best, then you have to be the best, and you have to put in the effort. And this brings me back again to how much you know yourself and how much you feel close to yourself and the relationship you have with yourself. Because first of all, when you have a relationship with yourself, you know yourself better. You know what you need to work on. You know what triggers you. You know how to recognize better things that are not working or things that might trigger you. And you also feel more comfortable with yourself and in your own skin. So you love yourself more. And when you love something or someone, then you market it so much more effectively and so much better. And that's what it is at the end of the day. Because when you love yourself properly, or when you believe in yourself and when you believe in your abilities and capabilities, then you're much more effective in your convincing of other people that you are good and that you are worth it. And you can't advocate for someone or something that you don't believe in, you know. And if you don't believe in yourself and if you don't feel close to yourself, then why should anyone else believe in you, you know? And I was watching the podcast, you should watch it too, it's really good, with Jay Shetty and Matthew Hussey. And Matthew Hussey was saying how, or they were talking about how your goal should be your happiness, not another person. So it all starts from within. You can't rely on other people to do the things for you. I always say this, and I'll say this again and again. You can't depend on everyone else and the world around you to cater to your needs or to make you happy or to make you strong or to make you this or that or the other. You need to do it for yourself, because no one's gonna do it for you. Sorry, that's my long spiel.
No, I'll two things. I'll respond to that quickly. I haven't listened to that podcast, but I will. But I would say your goals should not be happiness. Your goals should be contentness, and it should be as far away from unhappiness as possible. Because I think if happiness is such a vague concept that, you know, it's kind of like when you're having sex. The goal shouldn't be orgasm. The goal should be pleasure. And orgasm is a byproduct of that, and it should just be, you know, enjoy yourself, have fun. Because if the goal is orgasm, then you're not taking the time to explore everything else. And you know, and sometimes you know, we'll have sex and then we you know, one of us isn't going to have an orgasm, but it was such a nice, fun, enjoyable thing. And so yeah, I would say, you know, just as orgasm is not, you know, the means to an end, like so is happiness. Like it's great if it happens, but everything else is so, you know, it's so much fun. You get so many other things on the way to that, you know, that should be it. The goal should be pleasure and enjoying yourself. Yeah, I think that's the good, not happiness, but enjoying yourself. Like, you know, make sure that you are not hating life, not, you know, this isn't something that you are being forced to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was part of a big conversation, but he generalized it as
happiness.
And comparing it to the fact that, you know, your goal as a person should be your own happiness and not a person. You know, it's not, my goal in life is to meet someone who's gonna make me happy.
Yeah. And what you were saying earlier about, you know, loving yourself and things like that, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and it ties into, we did an episode a while ago about bad dating advice and how be yourself, and how it was, you know, and I was saying, and what I said at that time was, be yourself doesn't really mean anything because you don't know who you are in this situation. And obviously with the interviews I've been, having recently, like, I kind of, it stirred up the whole be yourself, because, I'm dating companies here in this, I'm dating, I'm selling myself to becoming this amazing partner. And, it's being yourself. We get told that if you do be yourself and listen to your heart, like everything is going to work out well. And so if things don't work out well, it kind of, puts into doubt the whole, did I listen to my heart? Was I my true authentic self? Things like that. And that's not the right thing. The right thing is, if you listened to your heart and were yourself and like truly just, gave it your all, and it doesn't work out, it's going to hurt less.
Yeah.
That is the key difference. Because, for example, that I was seeing with companies, like I was my true self. So, I went there, showed my I didn't show off all of my tattoos, but I didn't hide them, and I didn't wear a lot of makeup, and I kind of dressed in the way that I didn't overdress, but I didn't underdress. Like I was just, this is how I'm feeling right now. And with some companies it worked, and with some companies it didn't. And the companies that it didn't, although the job on paper was something that I really wanted, the fact that that was what they put them off my profile, I was just like, well, then there's, then that's absolutely fine. I absolutely don't mind, because for many reasons they wouldn't want somebody like me, which it has nothing to do with me personally, and has everything to do with them and their needs. And the whole, and because I went there and was myself, I was just like, well, fine, then we just don't match. And and it's such a huge difference. So obviously today, I'm, JT and I are looking into getting a civil union, like we're together and it's strong. But I feel that not getting a job has a bigger impact on my life than not having a partner.
Oh, well, yeah, as it should be. But I mean, to each their own. But yeah, I think
this to say that,
prioritize.
If you understand that, if for a company it's a bigger financial stability deal than finding a partner, because if I don't have a partner but I have a job, I can still eat and live and shower and and just have a bed to sleep in. But if I have a partner but not a job, then it becomes a bit more complicated. All this to say that
and then it impacts also them.
Exactly. And some people can completely rely on their partners financially, and good for them. But a lot of people
It also impacts the dynamics, because if you're stressed out trying to find a job, then that stress can impact the person that you're with.
Oh, for sure.
But there was something I was going to say about the whole thing, and I forgot.
Well, anyway, it's this whole, and it's the reason why I kind of bring these things up of trying to think about how can I be my best self and things like that, because I'm somebody who when I made a mistake, or when I the whole thing of you relive a conversation like a million years later and you're like, this is what I should have said, and that type of thing. And I'm this type of person. I'm constantly kind of reassessing everything all the time. How could I have done better? How this, how that? And the job into process now, I'm just coming to the thing of, it is constantly reevaluating your needs, where you are, what you're expecting. And I was saying this in an interview where they were asking me all of these questions, and I had a moment of, God, today I'm 32. When I was 22, I would not have been answering these questions this way. And I would have been honest at that time as well. Like, just because I changed doesn't mean I was dishonest. It's just that I'm such a different person. And 10 years is a long but short time. When I was 22, I was, I was nearly done with my studies. I had moved away from home. I was owning money and things. On paper, I'm a very similar person. And even 5 years ago, before COVID, I was such a different person as well. And yeah, and it's making it okay. I think it's, making it accepting that you are somebody that changes, but
Mm-hmm.
therefore other
Yeah.
people change as well.
Oh, yeah. It's important to understand that change is part of life, and we need to adapt to change. And we were having this conversation the other day as well, Zev and I, and we were talking about how, as humans and as people, we are constantly changing and evolving. And I am not the same person as I was in the beginning of our relationship. I'm not the same person as I was 2, 3, 4 years ago. And I'm not the same person that I'll be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. We are constantly changing and evolving, and if we don't reevaluate ourselves in our life, and if we don't adapt, and if we don't constantly mirror these changes back to ourselves and how we are in within it and where we want to be within it, then we're just going to get lost, and
Yeah.
we're going to lose sight of ourselves, and then we don't know what to bring to the table. We don't know what we want to bring to the table. We're talking about this in relation to our relationship, where, when you're in a relationship, whether it's with your job, it's your partner, it's your friend, you are constantly evolving and changing. There's not much you can do about it. And I mean, there's not much you can do to stop it. But when you're in a relationship, you have to constantly have that conversation. It's like, I was calling it it's like updating your version of whatever it is. And a conversation with someone and communicating it with someone is what helps you evolve together. Because when you're with another person, or when you're in a job and you're changing with the times, then you can either grow apart or you can grow together. And the way to grow together is to be so in tune with yourself and in tune with the other person that you are just on top of things, and you're not losing yourself in the process. And I think it's important to be in tune with yourself, so you can be your best self, so you can always bring yourself to the situation and not have to fake it or not have to put on masks. And at the end of the day, you don't want to get a job that doesn't accept you for who you are, or that every single time you go for a meeting or whatever, you have to hide your tattoos, you have to hide this, that, or the other. Or in a relationship, when you are bringing something that isn't you on the first, second, third, fourth date, then you're going to have to continue bringing a fake you, because that's what the other person's going to expect, so you have to bring what you want them to see and expect from you every single time.
Yeah, I agree. And thinking about, changing and accepting change and things like that, it's, I think about how I've changed in certain things. And so one of my kind of, how to put this, like, difficulties, like, something that I have trouble accepting in myself is that I don't have many long-term friends. And I don't have many kind of like these passionate friendships that I used to have a lot, like up until fairly recently, like a couple of years or so. I had like a couple of really long-term friends and a couple of like really passionate friendships, like some overlapped, and it was these things and things. And so after I went to Thailand and did all this work and like just life and things and moving, that changed, and some of these friendships kind of clashed and kind of blew up, and other friendships could just fizzled away and things. And I had a lot of trouble, well, still kind of have some kind of trouble about accepting this, because I see other people that have these really long-term friendships, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, what did I do? Is it me? Did I do something? And so sometimes yes, other times no. And just, but so when it was my thing, like, when I was kind of responsible, what did I actually do? And all of this turns around the fact that I changed a lot. And some of these long-term friendships dated back to when I was a teenager or even before that, or some of these passionate friendships were enmeshed in something when I was feeling really bad about myself for certain, all sorts of reasons. And things have evolved since then. I could just, when I was, so I'm 32. When I was 16, I would overeat a lot. I didn't work out ever. I was very kind of like career driven and ambitious driven, and I, and wanted to travel the world and wanted to live in the big city, and was a huge people pleaser and things. All of these things have changed. And I'm not saying that they were bad things. I'm just saying all of these things have completely changed. And some of the people have evolved with me, and others just haven't evolved with me, and they've all have, went into a different direction. And some of the reasons why I was feeling so bad is just because I wasn't surrounding myself with the people that kind of I want to be surrounding myself with, and still have trouble today to do. And so, yeah, if you're changing, if you're putting in the work, you want to make sure that the people that you are with are matching who you want to be. Because, there's a play, I don't know the name, there's a French play by a French playwright, that says, hell is the people around you. And so basically, it's just other people reflecting to you who you are. And so if, people around you are not seeing your change, then that's never gonna, you're never gonna feel it. You want to be with new people.
Yeah, there's I'm not sure if it's it's just a Hebrew saying or if it's also in English, but the rough translation is, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah.
And it's basically the people you surround yourself with are the people who also define who you are as well as you define yourself. And at the end of the day, again, we are changing creatures. We're constantly on the move. We're constantly, impacted by every single thing that happens to us. And every encounter, every event, every job we do, every relationship we have touches us in a different way. And we evolve and grow with it. We are not the same people as we were. And so, imagine, how do I explain it? Like, imagine you're looking back at someone you used to be friends with, but you're not that same person that you were then, and you possibly wouldn't have been friends with that person if you were the same person that you are today, if you get my gist.
Yeah.
Yes, it was you who was friends with that person, but you are a different version of yourself today. And so you just have to, I'm also the same way. I have a few very, very close friends, but I don't have a lot of friends. I was never popular. And you adapt to what your life is and what you attract, and and it's just, part of being a human creature. And where am I going with this?
It's adapting and owning and things, and I think that, I think we're both
you're changing.
Yeah. And we're both kind of this is, I feel like we're both going through this therapeutic process of just like, we're changing and we're not the same people that we were, like both of us. I think, just
you grow apart, it's the way it goes, and it's just what it is.
I
mean, exactly. I just had speaking of friendships, not sure how much this is connected, but I had a friend who was the bestest friend that anyone could ever imagine, and we were friends since I think 7th grade, which is when she moved to my school. I think it was 7th or 8th grade or something like that, and we became fast friends. And the past few, like, we had like a few years where we were like disconnected, but the past, I mean, she's been my best friend for like 15, 16, 17 years, whatever it is. And she a year and a half ago, she just suddenly disappeared, and then she came back, said that she was going through a rough time, then she disappeared again, and I was like holding on by a thread, or hoping that she would come back to me, because it wasn't a friendship that I wanted to lose. And a lot of times losing a friendship is harder than a breakup with a partner. And I just decided recently that I need to let go. That, it's just part of life. It was very, very hard for me to let her go. And to this day, I have this bitter feeling sometimes when I think about her, and I'm hoping maybe one day she'll come back to me, especially since I have no idea what happened to her. I don't know if she just disappeared and she just just became distant, and it's fine. It is what it is. I don't know what happened. I don't know what she's going through. I don't know if it has anything to do with me, with her, what it is. But at the end of the day, I have to keep moving on with my life. I have to keep living my life. And yes, it's painful to lose someone, especially such a close friend. But I do have other people in my life, and there's always more people to meet,
Yeah.
I mean, there's always more people out there in the world that you can get along with. It's like the same thing as finding a relationship. There's no one right, perfect person for you. And you just have to make it work. And so, I had to find the best in this situation and focus on other relationships in my life, and learn to let go of her, and understand that if someone grows apart from you, or leaves your life, then it's because it just isn't working anymore, and that's their issue. It's her loss, her problem, and whatever it is, and so be it. What can you do? Such is life.
Yeah, it's funny because it's kind of that I'm not going to go into my whole thing, because I have a situation that mirrors exactly what you just said, right? It kind of, and I was thinking, like, yeah, I have the exact same feeling as I do with you with this, about this friend, and it's move on. However, like, my ex, well, didn't come back into my life, but it was like I reconnected with another friend who's friends with my ex, and she was talking to me about him, and I was like, I really don't care. Like, I just, hopefully he does well. Like, sometimes I'm a bit curious, but like, I'm not interested in meeting up. I'm not interested in kind of, just going over this whole thing. This is a guy that, I bought a flat with, I adopted a cat with, we lived together for, like, it was a big, big part of my life. And now, but it ended 5 years ago. And she was like, but don't you want to just see how things have turned out? And I was like, well, no, because I've changed. And she said, yeah, but he's changed as well. I was like, okay, well then, if I'm not the same person, he's not the same person, I'm not interested. Like, it's just, I'm not interested. It's just so random. It's so, I don't want to meet every single random person that does these things. Like, it's just part of my life. If our paths cross, then they do. But I'm not interested in actively pursuing a friendship or whatever. And she was like, wow, I can't believe how much you've let it go. It's impressive. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure. And hearing you now is just like, so I let go of that relationship, but I haven't let go of other things that are, similar. And it's tough to let go. It's tough.
It is
Friendships
very
and
hard to let go.
relationships.
Yeah, I think I would argue that a best friend is harder to lose than a romantic relationship. But I mean, it's just a different. It's a similar pain, but it's a bit different. And I don't know. Like, sometimes I think about, what if she suddenly appeared and just wanted to just be friends again. And a part of me is like, yay, I'm just hoping she'd do that. But then another part of me is like, no, F you, you just disappeared without an explanation, as if I'm just so replaceable or just easy to let go of. And you come back when it's convenient for you. It's like, part of me is like, that's a huge turn off for me. And a part of me is like, if you want to come back into my life, you're the one who needs to put in the effort, and you're the one who needs to do the work, because I'm moving on. I'm moving forward, and if I'm that easily replaceable for you, then go enjoy your life without me. I don't care. That's your problem. I don't want to surround myself with people who can just let me go like that easily. And it's hard, it's very difficult, it's easier said than done, and it's painful. But if again, it's like that full circle, going back to adapting to change that we were talking about, is that if you don't adapt to these changes in your life, you're just going to get sucked into the pain and the darkness and the depression and the sadness and whatever it is, and the anger. And yes, it's okay to feel those emotions. It's important. We're human when we have those emotions for good reason. But you shouldn't get caught up in it too much. You need to learn how to move on from it and use it as fuel to motivate you to keep moving forward. And there's always more to discover out there. That's the beauty of this world, that there's so much more out there. There's so many more people, there's so many more jobs, there's so many more things. And yes, there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of things that we need to fight for, but there's an abundance. And if you see the world as abundant, then you'll have abundance. If you see it as lacking and nothing out there for you, then you're not going to find anything, because you don't really want to. And so you're not really focusing on that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, you want, like, I can feel you in this friend, like you are thinking, you want to have some understanding towards her, but then at the same time you're like, yeah, but I mean, also I'm worth more. And it's, where do you put the line? It's like, you want to have understanding. It's like, yes, you want to, you want to know your worth and have your boundaries and do these things, but you also want to have understanding. And it's, where does it, where is the middle? In France there's this kind of phrase that translates to your freedom stops when the other person's freedom starts. But when, so how does that work? Because I'm free to drive as fast as I want as long as I don't hit anybody. No, there's a law because it's protecting. And and you want to find the middle of somewhere of just, my freedom is to eat this apple. Yes, but this apple was in my tree in my garden. Okay, but this, and it's all these things, like, where is the middle in, your boundaries and your self-worth, and this other person, is also going through something. And what is going on in her life that would justify this happening? Like, what are you ready to accept? If it's her being flaky, then it's her being flaky. But if it's her going through cancer and she wanted it to be a secret, and I'm just and I'm just extrapolating here. My dad went through something similar recently, a couple of years ago, where his 50-year-old relationship, like friendship, guy just kind of fell off the map, and he's just come dumbfounded, not understanding and he's 50 years down the line, and where somebody else has said something's going on and he just doesn't want to share. And it's just like, my dad's just like, what is it? And where do you where do you put the whole thing? Because you've also got feelings, but what's more important, their feelings or your feelings? And and I think that's the whole point of this podcast and of our work is, how do you make the difference? And I think it kind of goes back nicely kind of to what I was saying. Like, if you listen to your heart, then you're not going to regret. So if you today actively decide, I'm going to leave the door open for her because she's worth it, and she does or doesn't come back, then it'll be fine. But if you also actively decide, I'm really hurt by this situation and I would have needed a bit more information because I think I deserve it, and whether or not it comes, I think you'll be fine. You just need to make the decision and then see how it pans out.
Yeah, I think, look, it's important to protect yourself, but at the same time also be there for someone else and to respect other people's needs and emotions. And I think it's just, again, a matter of finding that balance between, I'm worthy and I'm worth a lot more than this treatment. Also understanding that, the world is much bigger than you and there's more out there, and people go through their own shit, and they have their own life, and people can't always revolve around you. And so at first, you give the benefit of the doubt. I was, trying to reach out, trying to understand what was going on, trying to talk to her. But when I kept getting a cold shoulder, eventually you're like, okay, fine, I tried. There's a point where you have to say enough is enough. Yes, you have to try, because, where you have to give it. I was thinking about this a lot recently, where as the single friend, or as the unmarried, childless friend in my group, I have a bit more to give of my time, of my freedom of movement around in the world, to give to my friends who are married and have kids. And so why not give it? Because it's not fair that I'm the single person who has to give more of myself. No, that's life. Sometimes they give more, sometimes you give more. And it's just part of every relationship. Sometimes they give more because they have more to give, and sometimes you are. A relationship is rarely ever 50-50. I saw a therapist one talking about this, that she comes home every day to her husband, and they each say how much percentage they have to give. I have 70 today. That's sorry, I have 30 today. Yeah, could be. And that's, I got you. I have 70 to give for myself to complete you. But then when a person is just keep giving you the culture, you have to move on eventually, and just, I tried, I gave it my all, and I'm going to move on and live my own life. And if and when she ever comes back, I'll listen to her, because that's who I am. And I believe in first listening before you make a verdict, and then I'll decide. And, I love what you said about, listen to yourself so you don't regret. I think eventually we're all going to regret something that we did. I think regret is just part of life, and it's very rare to make a decision that you don't think back on, and at the very least say, oh, did I make the right choice? It's just part of life. It's just part of being human. You have to make the decision for yourself as you are right now, and what you feel is right for you right now, in the moment and in your life that you're living in this era and in this time and in this period. And the future you has to accept that, because that's where you were back then, and that's where you are now, and you're just living the life that you can at the moment, and it is what it is.
Yeah, that kind of sparked something, and then the spark left. But it is, I would say, the whole thing about giving and things. Oh yeah, I remember. I saw this thing about Sex in the City the other day, and make sure you watch Sex in the City in your 20s, so that you don't do the same mistakes that Carrie does in her 30s and whatever. And there was this one episode where Carrie gets invited to this, I can't remember, baby shower or whatever, and her shoes get ruined. And she does this whole thing about why am I the one giving money for weddings and baby showers and things, and when I'm single without children and I never get anything, and like I've spent so much money on these people and they haven't spent any money on me, and I'm like, that was I was thinking, that's such a shit move, like, complaining that other people are moving on with their lives when you're just happy with the life that you've got, and making it about you. I was thinking that was such a shit move. And the thing that you were saying about, putting energy in, compare it to plants and compare it to having a pet and things like that. So I'm not a fan of comparing human relationships to anything that's not a human relationship, but there's so often where you put effort into something to not get a lot in return, but you still do it until you're fed up, and then you stop doing it. And watering a plant, or I think having a cat is the best example. Like, you put so much energy into having a cat, and the cat barely acknowledges that you live, but you still do it because it brings you joy. So if giving of your time and energy to your friends brings you joy, then you forget about what they give you in return. Like, that's the fact that you are giving brings you joy. And if at some point it doesn't bring you joy, then you don't do it anymore. It doesn't need to become bitter. It doesn't need to become this whole big thing. It's just, if you're not feeling it anymore, then you're not feeling it, and that's that.
Yeah, it's part of being in a relationship. And I think a lot of times I enjoy buying things for my loved ones more than I do for myself.
Yeah.
And we have this beautiful, beautiful, it's not really a saying, it's part of a song, but it's I'm going to call it a saying in Hebrew that I love and I live by. And I'm actually going to say it in Hebrew and then I'm going to translate it because it's just
Okay.
so beautiful. But it goes like this. It's לתת מבלי לרצות לקחת ולא מתוך הרגל, which basically translates to giving without wanting to take and not out of habit, or or giving with one expecting anything in return. And I think it's, you know, giving from yourself just for the sake of giving, because and when you love someone, you want to give to them, and it's part of, you know, bringing yourself out there into the world and being in a relationship is being able to not look at a situation and give from yourself just so you get it back in return. Like, you know, I had this thought of, I was a maid of honor in 3 of my friends' weddings, and I've been part of planning 3 bachelorette parties, and it's like eventually I'm like, oh, I just want to get married just so I can pay them back for this. But you know, you have to at some point, but I mean, that was it's a joke, but at the end of the day, I loved it. I loved being a part of their special day. I loved helping them. I loved creating something for them because I love my friendship with them and I love them. And you want to give from yourself without any expectation for them ever to give it back to you. You know, some people are less fortunate. Some people just can't right now. Some people just don't have right now. And as long as you know when you're being taken for granted, and you know that you're not being taken advantage of, then you have to give from yourself. That's part of life, you know, and you have to do it because you really want to, and not because you should, not because you want anything, and not just out of habit, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, listeners, tell us what you think
Yes.
about all of this, about, you know, what are times have you changed? Have you observed other people changing? You know, when were you your best self and not so much your best self, and how, you know, how are you dealing with that? And please comment on the videos on social media, and send us, you know, stuff all over the place, and share this podcast. It does so much. You know, everybody says it and it's such so cliche, but it's true. And
Yeah. And share
pop
your
culture, keep
stories
it.
and share your experiences, and we might even react to them or give our advice to them if you share.
We definitely will. So far, with
Yeah. And make sure also to, yeah, but make sure also to listen / watch the podcast of Stephen Bartlett with Lori Gottlieb, and we'll probably talk about it in the following episode or the one after. I'll share it on our story as well, so if anyone wants to listen along.
Sure.
And share their thoughts. Anyway, don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Bye everyone.
And
Subscribe.
like. Bye.